Welcome back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Brundy, how you doing today?
Doing fantastic. Yourself?
Good, really good.
That's good.
Especially after the big extension, the only big extension that's happened in the past few days. But we'll get to that in just a bit here. We're going to be doing things a little bit differently for the next couple episodes. We're going to be covering every single team in the NHL, broken down by division, and going over how they did last year, how some of the things they've done in the offseason, and what we think they're going to do in the next season. And this episode will be starting with the Atlantic Division, since there's been so much smoke around it recently.
Yeah.
This is only one day off of the Austin Matthews extension, so once we get to Toronto, we'll talk about that. But I guess let's just jump right in here and talk about the Boston Bruins first.
The Bees. Yeah. Where do you want to start with them? I want to start with... I mean, there's just like... We don't really need to go, too in-depth, I don't think, about last year for them. We kind of know what they did, what happened, how it ended.
Yeah, absolutely incredible season. It's hard to imagine a team like this dropping too insanely far, but not only do they have to come back down to earth after a season like that, like there's no way they can reproduce that, but
yeah,
they also had massive losses in the retirement of David Krejci and Patrice Bergeron.
Yeah, they got some big holes to fill now on that roster. Yeah, and it's like you said, any team that does that good throughout the regular season, whatnot, obviously has to come back down to earth next season. They're not going to be able to do that 2 years in a row. And not only that, now with a lot of the subtractions they got there, it puts them in a weird spot. I don't know how to feel about the Bruins going into next year.
Yeah, they lost obviously their two big centers, as I just said, but also Tyler Bertuzzi left in free agency. They traded Taylor Hall.
Orlov went to Carolina.
Orlov left. Those are 5 pretty substantial losses.
Yeah. And now, here's the fun part. So they've got all those losses, right? Here's who they've replaced them with. Kevin Shattenkirk.
I like him. That's a good two-way. He's got a good scoring touch for a depth defenseman.
James Van Riemsdyk.
It's not bad at all.
And Milan Lucic.
What they sign him to? Because he's a
1 year, $1 million.
That's
with a no movement clause.
Oh yeah, he wants to go nowhere.
Feel bad for him though. He comes back to Boston. That's right when Bergeron and Krejci leave. I bet he would have loved to play one more season with all those boys in Boston, but
he probably knew. He probably knew before the public knew that Bergeron was done.
Yeah. I mean, the star power is still there for them. Pasternak up front with Marchand. On the back end, you still got Charlie McAvoy and Hampus Lindholm. So, the top guys are there. It's more a question for me. It's the depth of this team. And the biggest thing is their center core. Because right now, just kind of looking at their team at first glance, if you're rolling with the group of Charlie Coyle, Pavel Zacha, then Morgan Geekie, and then whether you go with Jesper Boquist or Patrick Brown, that's and arguably what people can call one of the most important positions on the team. It's a struggle for them.
Yeah,
and so
that's tough.
I'm almost wondering if they roll with something where, do you split up a Pasternak and Marchand, have one on line 1, one on line 2 to kind of help balance out that issues with the centers, but then you're rolling with a pretty weak left winger on your first line, or relative to that position at least, because kind of just looking at their team, it'd probably be a Jake DeBrusk or maybe even a Trent Frederick, and those just aren't first line guys.
No.
So overall, I'm curious to see how this team does. I'm curious to see what Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman can do. Are they going to, put up the fantastic numbers they did last year? on that great Bruins team? Are they going to come back down to earth like the rest of the team will and, put up serviceable numbers, or are they going to be bad numbers? There's a lot to look at here, and obviously there is a lot of prospects within the Bruins that could make the team. There's none that I'm super high on that I think are going to be like, oh, they're going to make the team and immediately be a 40-plus point guy.
Yeah.
So to speak. Unless someone really just steps up and proves me wrong. I'm just not sure how I feel about the Bruins yet for next year. But we are going to, as we go through each team, we're going to say where we have them ranked finishing in the division. Okay,
so as each team comes, you want to say where you have them in.
Yeah, we'll just slot them right in as we go on the fly. Do you have anything else to kind of add about the Bruins before we hop on the next team?
Not really. Yeah, you just kind of have to wait and see. They did so incredibly good and then lost so much, but a lot of that team is still there.
Yep.
So especially that tandem in net, like when you have a goalie that's the caliber of Jeremy Swayman as your backup, that can really help you steal some games. So it's hard to tell.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, I want you to go first for your prediction of where they are in the standings, because
okay.
I think yours is probably going to be
higher or lower than yours.
I imagine it'll be higher.
Higher, okay.
I think yours will be a lot closer to what most people would think.
Okay, so I don't have the Bruins in 1.
Okay,
I don't have them in 2.
I would say that still makes sense.
I don't have them in 3.
He doesn't have them in 3.
I don't have them in 4.
He doesn't have them at 4.
I have them at 5.
I also have the Boston Bruins at number 5.
You have them at 5 too? Let's go.
Yep.
Let's go. That one was honestly probably the toughest to put in here. I can really, like, as much as I kind of just sat here and dogged on the Bruins, which is well deserved. You could easily have them up in the 4 or down to the 6 based on the teams I got in there. Like, those teams, 4, 5, and 6 for me, can intertwine in any way, shape, or form. I think the biggest thing for me between those teams, and we'll get to those other 2 teams as we get there, is the goaltending. All 3 of those teams, I'm just very weary on their goaltending going into next year, and so that's kind of why I kind of flip-flopped around between them, but I did land with the Bruins at 5. Now, because they're in 5, do you have them in a wild card spot?
I do not.
You don't?
No.
I do.
You do?
No, I don't. Fuck no.
Oh, okay.
5th team in the Atlantic is not making the playoffs. The Bruins are missing the playoffs. But we said that last year.
Yeah,
and look how wrong we were.
I had $5 on it last year, and I did not make back my $5.
Definitely did not.
Man, they started the year. How did they put up the season they did starting the year without Marchand or McAvoy?
Yeah.
That is so goofy.
Nuts. All right, moving on to the Buffalo Sabres.
The Buffalo Sabres.
The team that I think everybody's kind of rooting for this year.
If you're a Sabres fan, I mean, that's just like you're a real big fan of hockey. Like, to have not, it's very similar to like Arizona Coyotes fans. It's like, man, you're just like you're just built different. If you can over the past 10 years just still be rooting for this team.
Yeah,
right. You're rooting for the fans more than anything because they deserve to see something.
Yeah.
And they're finally seeing something for the first time in quite a while in Buffalo.
Oh yeah.
Things are looking good. They're putting together a good team. Got their cap friendly up here. They are missing a 5th rounder next year. And that is all the draft picks that they are missing. They've also got an extra 4th and extra 7th in 2025.
So like they're they
haven't had to mortgage the future to build what they have either.
And that's what I was going to say. And they've also got almost just under $9 million in cap space to work with. So in my opinion, they've already got a pretty good roster put together. But now you've got those picks and those that just loaded prospect pool they have. So you've got lots of pieces to go out and get a big name player if one becomes available, and they've got the cap space to do it. Like they're in a good spot right now, I think, going into next season.
Yeah, I think they got a lot of good players on cheaper contracts. Quite a few of them are going for a long time too.
Yeah.
Tage Thompson is locked up till like at least 2029.
Him and Cousins both have 7-year extensions that just kicked in.
Yeah, at 7.14. Like, what a steal for a guy like Tage Thompson.
And then even Dylan Cousins at 7.1. I almost feel like for Tage Thompson, right? I feel like he could have easily gotten more. But, I mean, dude's a stand-up guy. We know this. And I really do believe the reason his number is so low is I think that's part of his way of giving back to the Sabres. Just because he was, like, his career was kind of just almost over in St. Louis. It didn't start out great in Buffalo, but they kept working with him. They kept pushing him. They got him finally on the team and back in the center position, which suits him. And he's just taken off. And I think, you know what, for a guy who 3 years ago, say around 3 years ago, thought his career was over, to now be offered over $7 million for 7 years, like, yeah. That's just got to mean the world to him. But I really do like what they've got going on with their contracts. Even I mean it's coming over from Vegas, but Alex Tuck, at 4.75 for the next 3 years, is also a really good one.
That's a great contract. And then, even they've got a couple of not horrible contracts, but they've got a couple that after this year will be up that will give them even more cap space. $2.5 million for Kyle Okposo.
He's not going anywhere.
$2 million for Tyson Jost. Like, at the very least, I don't see either of those guys getting a raise if they do keep him around.
I
think they're going to be saving a bit of money on those, whether they move on or resign them.
Kyle Okposo is on the Joe Thornton train now. He's at a point in his career now, right, where he can't go anywhere and sign a 3-4 year deal. Like, he can't.
Yeah.
He's a third, fourth line guy. Maybe gets some power play time here and there, maybe.
35 years old.
And it's just going to be sign a 1 year with the team, and then next offseason just signs another one. And I think he just keeps doing that as long as the relationship is good between him and Buffalo, because he is their captain. Unless Buffalo is really just doing bad next year, and Oposo's like, man, I really want to chase a cup. Maybe then they trade him if both sides agree to it, type of thing. But I see him sticking around long term. But like, I really like the look of this team. Even on the back end, Rasmus Dahlin, you've got Owen Power now, who's got a full year of NHL play under his belt. You've got what's his name, Devin Levi, who looked really good last year, is probably gonna, I think, in my opinion, win the starting job.
Yeah, and not to mention Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is he looks to be really good too. So they've got two potentially really good goalies, at the very least, guys that look like they could be starters in the NHL. So that looks good. Jack Quinn looks like he's ready to take that next step.
Yeah,
pretty soon.
Casey Middlestat really found his stride in the league last year. I'm curious to see if he can put it together again next season.
Yeah, Peyton Krebs, JJ Peterka, like, they got a lot of guys who they all seem like they're going to get better. If they can all take even a half step together, for considering what they did last year, they're going to be a force.
Now think of this. All those great young players you just named. They've also got Isaac Rosen, Matthew Savoie, Noah Osterland, Yuri Kulich, and Zach Benson. Like, that's 5 really high-end forward prospects they have, all 20 or younger. Like, and even then, you could easily use for the right price, like, you could do an Isaac Rosen in a third or a second or something, and you could get like a good player at the deadline or something. Like, there is options for Buffalo to even improve their roster without taking away from guys currently on the team next year. So, and they've got the cap space. I'm high on the Sabres. So
yeah, they look like they're going to be a force, and they were really high in league scoring. I don't know if they finished the league there, but I know at one point they were like third in the league.
At one point they were number one.
Scored.
Number one.
Yeah.
At one point, yeah. Like, it was nuts.
So all they need to do is shore up that defense a bit.
Yep.
And like we said, with 2 young goalies coming up that look really good.
And I think
that could easily
Dahlin
happen.
is really hitting his peak as well.
Yeah.
Like, he looked good when he first came in. Like, it was never like, why was this guy a first overall pick? But he kind of hit that thing that Aaron Ekblad hit 2 years ago or so, where it really just started to click. Like, the defensive game was already there and strong and sound. But now he's getting that offense in. He's getting those points. He's chipping in. He can properly run a power play. Like, it's all just clicking for him. And so I think he's going to take even that next step next year. And he's really going to be the backbone.
He's going to take that step from being like an elite defense to like a almost Norris caliber level defenseman.
All right. Do you want me to go first again where I have the Sabres?
Maybe I'll go first. We'll rotate.
Okay.
Each one. So for Buffalo, I have them making the playoffs.
Oh!
In third.
Me too! I have the Sabres in third making the playoffs. I'm high on Buffalo. I'm very high on Buffalo. Actually, fun fact for those who don't know, the very first team I started liking in the NHL was the Buffalo Sabres.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Fun fact. I can't remember. I think I was at like what is it in the mall? It's like a sports store. Jersey City. That's what it is. And I was there one time, and they had a really sick like Buffalo Sabres mini stick, and I was like, "This is my team."
Oh,
and
let's go.
So then I just started liking Buffalo. I was like, "These are my boys."
Do you remember the logo they had?
They at the time, they were using the fucking slug.
It was a Buffa slug,
and it looked so sick on a mini stick.
Dude, I don't care what people say. I love that logo. I know a lot of people say they dislike it, especially because the Sabres have had other really good logos, like
their current one is solid, like the Buffalo with the 2 swords,
the Buffalo head, the like red and white one. That one's super good. But
they've had very good logos.
I really like the slug.
Yeah. So the Sabres have always just really had a special place in my heart. 'Cause it's like, that was the first team I actually started rooting for, but I mean, I couldn't really comprehend life itself at the time, let's be real.
All you knew was the mini stick.
Yeah, but I will say I am glad I didn't stick to that road, although, I mean, is it that much better being a Sharks fan, realistically? I don't know.
You know what? If you asked a Sabres fan, they'd probably tell you it is.
Yeah.
It's been a rough 10 years.
All right, so we both do have the Buffalo Sabres at number 3 in the Atlantic, making the playoffs. Moving on. The Detroit Red Wings. The Steve Yzerman plan going on there. How are we feeling about them?
Starting to hear a couple people question the Yzerman plan. I haven't really seen that since he got there, at least from Red Wings fans.
Oh, I was just saying I'm on board with questioning the Yzerman plan.
Yeah,
I've seen
at a certain point, like
I've seen people actually be like, rip it down. Tear it down, start fresh on the rebuild, and going to your next talking point here, I'm just going to pull it up here.
Yeah, so they got where I want to start. I want to start net first. So they got Ville Husso and James Reimer in net.
James Reimer, Minister of Defense, by the way.
We got those two in net. That's a pretty solid tandem. James Reimer has always kind of thrived being a bit of an overutilized backup. A backup that plays 30-ish games a year. I think that's a perfect spot for him. And Ville Husso is great. It's been a bit tougher for him in Detroit than it was before in St. Louis. But I think he's going to be a really good goaltender there for quite a while. They got a couple good guys. They have a lot of middle 6 forwards, and they don't have a ton of absolutely elite talent. They have they have a lot of those guys that are like fringe elite. You know, the Alex DeBrincat, the Dylan Larkins, who are, I would argue, are elite, but you know, they're not the Austin Matthews, they're not the Nikita Kucherov, the guys who can really drive the boat and get you there in the playoffs.
Like that. Those are the two guys they're relying on to carry a team to a cup, and that's not a, like you said, it's not a fucking Bergeron and Marchand. It's not a Taves and Kane. And I know it's not fair to compare those guys to them, but we're seeing in the NHL, realistically, you need that dynamic duo to win you a cup. Like, the only exception, I would say, you can make the argument is Vegas, but even still, you still saw like the Eichel and Marchessault kind of duo thing. And I mean, I could be proven wrong, and I would like to, because I do like Detroit, but I just really don't see Larkin and DeBrincat being that duo that can single-handedly, on their back, win the game for a team and whatnot.
I think if Lucas Raymond could take that next step, he could be one of those guys. Given what we saw in his rookie year, I think he definitely has the potential. If he gets there, I mean, that remains to be seen, but if Larkin could keep getting better, because he's only improved since he's got to the NHL, and if Raymond can take that next step, you know, Mo Seider, if he can keep getting better, then they might have a chance, but it's not looking great for them at the moment.
Yeah.
They look like one of those teams that's too good to get an incredible pick, not good enough to make the playoffs. They're picking 12th every year, and it's not changing the franchise. Yeah,
so I've pulled it up here now to go back on just kind of why I'm just kind of questioning the Yzer plan a bit is just this. So I'm going to exclude 2023, 2022, and 2021, just because a lot of those guys really haven't played in the NHL much or anything, so it's just too early to tell with those ones. I always do go back 3 years, and you can't make any judgment yet. You got to let it ride its course. Look at Tage Thompson.
Yeah.
But like 2020, Lucas Raymond was their first-round pick, 4th overall. I think Raymond's a good player, and I think he will have a bounce-back year. That is a tough call at 4th overall.
Is it?
Yeah. The year before, Moritz Seider, 6th overall, I'm okay with that. I've got no issues there. But this is where it gets bad now. This is where we hit like the rock bottom for Detroit.
Yeah.
Philip Zadina in 2018, 6th overall. Yeah, not on the team anymore. Joe Veleno, 30th overall. A lot of people thought that was going to be a steal. He just signed a 1-year like league minimum deal. Michael Rasmussen really hasn't done anything. He was 9th overall in 2017.
Yeah.
And then in 2016, Dennis Cholowski, 20th overall.
Oof.
Played a little bit with Detroit. He's now with the Islanders. And then 2015, 19th overall, Evgeny Svechnikov. Played with San Jose last year. He just signed over in Russia. So you look at 2015 all the way through for how many drafts is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 years in a row. You've had a first-round pick, and none have panned out.
Yeah.
That's the issue for Detroit. And that's why they're at the spot. Because, they had the double first-round pick 1 year. So 5. Say 3 of them pan out and become actual good NHL players like a first-round pick usually should be. Yeah. That instantly puts them so much higher on my list. Yeah. But there's so many holes now that those guys should be filling that they're not.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest issue with the Red Wings. I think they're a serviceable team. I've already gone into depth on how I feel about their logjam at center and their defense. I'm just not loving it. I am not McDonald's loving it.
Yeah, I think it might be a little bit low on Lucas Raymond. I think
it's not that I'm low on him.
I think 4th overall for a guy that I think the skill he potentially has is worth it, at least so far.
No, I agree, but
he's not gonna carry the franchise to the promised land on his own.
It's just like if he sticks around that 45 to 50 point mark he's put up so far, that's a rough look for a 4th overall pick, in my opinion. But I do expect him.
That's me expecting
him
to get better. I expect him in a few years to be a very consistent 75-plus point guy.
Yeah, and I do think he will bounce back. But yeah, I mean, I like the addition of bringing in like Klim Kostin, Daniel Sprong if he plays. DeBrincat was solid. Comfer, again, that one just is still to me so bizarre.
You know what? That one's making a lot more sense to me than it did before. Now that I'm looking at their cap friendly, they got like 7 or 8 forwards in a row that are listed as right wing, left wing. They've got like no centerman. They kind of need somebody to play in the dot.
Well, they've got. I mean, I'm assuming Veleno, now that he signed, will fill that 4th.
He'll be on the 4th.
The 4th. I think Larkin. Well, Larkin's obviously the number
Larkin's
1.
Larkin's the 1C, and it's got to be Comfer and Robbie Fabry 2-3, right?
I mean, I would still have Andrew Kopp at center. I like him more as a center, in my opinion. But I mean, anything can happen. Like, for all we know, Robbie Fabry could end up on the wing, and then you roll with Comfer and Kopp, and I think that's still a very solid 1-2 punch for your center on the penalty kill.
Yeah.
I just see a lot of repetition. Like, you've got a Ben Sherratt and a Justin Hall on defense. Virtually the same player. One's just left-handed, one's right-handed. Yeah. You've got Jeff Petrie and Shane Gostisbehere. Virtually the same player. One's just left-handed, one's right-handed. Like, it's just like they're not... It's just a lot of the same type of players that aren't super special. Like, they're good players, but it's not like a... where you've got like, okay, we've got a Crosby and a Malkin type thing. Like, they're virtually the same player, but it's like a thing of their own. It's just... It feels like those guys are just to fill the void for. It
really does feel like they're picking up good NHL players who round out a roster.
Yeah,
but yeah, they have a lot of guys that are top 4-ish, but no guys that are solidly like, yes, this guy could easily be on a second pair or possibly the first with Seider on a cup-winning team.
Yeah.
Like, other than Seider, none of these guys deserve to be on a first pair, really. Like, Jake Wollman's good, and he pairs very well with Seider, so I imagine he will be on that first line, but I think you usually want a guy with a bit more skill on your first.
Yeah.
On your first line.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's really all I got to say about the Red Wings. Should we jump into where we got him here?
Yeah.
All right. I have the Detroit Red Wings.
I'm wondering if we're gonna have the same rankings all the way through.
I have them missing the playoffs.
No.
So they're not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Wow.
They're not 6. I have them at 7.
I also have Detroit at 7.
You have them at 7 too. Let's go. We're 3 for 3.
I think we're gonna have the exact same list, except I feel like
1 and 2.
1 and 2 are gonna be different.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. But good luck to Detroit on the upcoming season. I am rooting for them. I'm not high on them, but I am still rooting for them.
Yeah, Dylan Larkin kind of proved me wrong a little bit last year. I thought he was a fringe first line guy. I think he's solidly a top line guy. I'd be more than happy to see him prove me wrong again. If he wants to show he's that number 1 center that can carry a team, like, do it, man. I'm just some dude in a basement.
Yeah. All right, the Florida Panthers.
The Florida Panthers, projected cap space 0.
Yeah, they're right there. They're right there on the cap.
Oh, that's a lot of grayed out picks.
Yeah, they put themselves in a tough spot.
They got a couple 5th rounders in the next few years, so that's good.
Yeah, a couple 4s. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to feel. It's always tough because a team that just made the Cup final, you want to be high on them going into next season. But the problem is we shouldn't have been high on the Panthers to begin with last year. Like, them making the Cup final was an incredible run, but I don't think that holds any merit now going into next season. Especially also when you know that Aaron Ekblad and Brandon Montour, their top 2 defensemen, are both on LTIR. I'm not really sure exactly when they're going to return. So that's a big issue for them. Yeah. That's a hole.
Matthew Tkachuk also very injured right now. I think he has, a broken sternum or something like that?
It sounds like Tkachuk is going to be good to go at the start of the season, though.
Oh, he is?
It sounds like
I thought he was going to miss a month or two.
But, like, I really don't mind their forward core they still have. Even minus Anthony Duclair, like Barkov and Tkachuk and Verhaeghe. You know, you could roll for a first line, second line.
That's a great first line.
A Sam Bennett, a Sam Reinhart, who I think is one of the most underrated players in the league. With, like, Evan Rodriguez. Third line, Luosterainen, Cousins, and Lundell probably. And they could go with Ryan Lomberg, Stenlund, and Lawrence. Like that to me is actually a very good forward group.
That's a great forward
group. That's a very good forward group. It's the defense that's worrisome. Only because Ekblad and Montour are out. I'm going to just do it based on assuming they return, say, 15 to 20 games in.
Yeah.
So you've got Ekblad and Montour, both right-handed guys. So then on the left, you can go with Gustav Forsling and then Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who I think was a good signing for them.
Yeah. So once those two come back, that's a pretty solid top 4.
And then you can roll with Mike Riley and then Nico Mikkola on your bottom pair or something. Like, they've got lots of options.
Yeah.
The issue for me, and this has been a big thing I've had against the Florida Panthers, their goaltending.
You don't believe in Sergei Bobrovsky?
It's not that I don't believe in Bobrovsky. It's the fact that the Florida Panthers, between Sergei Bobrovsky, I'm assuming Spencer Knight comes back, so Anthony Stolarz is either traded somewhere to a team or sent to the minors. I would like to see him get traded because I don't want to see him in the minors. Mm-hmm. Assuming that Spencer Knight comes back fully healthy, mind focused on hockey and ready to play. Between Bobrovsky and Spencer Knight, the Florida Panthers are paying their 2 goalies $14.5 million.
Yeah.
That is a lot of money to tie up into 2 goalies when that money could be put towards bolstering your top 6 on defense.
Yeah.
Or adding a
top
really
defense.
Good third line center or something.
They could have re-signed Radko Gudas for that money.
Yeah, they could have kept Anthony Duclair.
Yeah.
Both
of those would be great selections to keep around. Yeah. Like, that's tough to be paying them that much.
So I'm not crazy about, like, a very solid goaltending tandem though. Like, I will give them that. But it's just there's so much money on the table there with them that could be used to improve the team elsewhere.
Yeah,
but I do like the look of their team still, all things considered.
Yeah, and they got to go for it this year because I'm looking at their team. There's a lot of ones on here for years remaining. Sam Reinhart, 1 year, UFA. Nick Cousins, 1 year. Lorenz, Kevin Stenlund, Anton Lundell, Ryan Lomberg. All of their defensemen, except for Aaron Ekblad with 2 years and Nico Mikkola with 3, all of them are 1 year.
Yeah.
Like, their entire defensive core, other than 2 guys, next season are not under contract. Some of them are RFAs, but
yeah,
there's a lot of guys you'll need to pay pretty soon.
I view it for the Florida Panthers, it's this year or bust for them.
Yeah.
I really feel like they go for this because, in my honest opinion, I don't think they're going to... I don't see Sam Reinhart being on the team at the start of next year. I think he gets traded at some point in the sign-in trade, or he just leaves in free agency. I don't see... He can command so much more money than what the Florida Panthers are going to be able to pay him.
Yeah, and
that's a big hole that he's going to leave on that team because, like I said,
that's a big spot in the top 6.
In my opinion, one of the... He's in my top 2 for most underrated players in the league.
Yeah, they. I think a lot of people underestimated them last year. I know a lot of people were like, "Really, the Florida Panthers? How are they going on this run?" And it was an improbable run just because of who they played against, but like if you told me before the playoffs that the Panthers be in the finals, I wouldn't be shocked. Like they're only 2 years out from the President's Trophy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they have been really good in the past 3 years. I'm surprised people were so down on them last year. Like I guess, they barely made the playoffs. They definitely weren't playing as well.
Yeah.
But I think this team definitely has the potential to be a real cup contender if they can pull everything together and make a real push out of it. They get lucky with the goaltending. Bobrovsky for a $10 million goalie is a real gamble. They get Spencer Knight back. That I think it could happen, but a couple of things need to fall in place pretty well for them.
Yeah. All right. The big question, where do you have the Florida Panthers finishing in the division?
In the division, I have them in fourth.
Fourth. That's where I got them. Number 4.
Making the playoffs.
Ooh. I don't.
You have them in fourth, missing out on the playoffs.
I do.
I have them in fourth, making the playoffs. I've got the 4-4 split.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think it's going to be very similar to last year. I think they're right in the fight, right up till the end. But I think, let's think about it this way: if Chicago didn't beat Pittsburgh at the end of the season, Pittsburgh would have been in the playoffs. I think Florida's going to find themselves in a spot like that again, just due to I think they get off to a little bit of a slower start without Ekblad and Montour, and I think that inevitably comes back to haunt them at the end of the year.
Right.
And so I see them fighting tooth and nail right till the end of the season, but I do see them coming up just short of that final wildcard spot.
I think I know exactly which team you have in the playoffs that I don't in the Metro, but we'll get to that in the next one.
The Montreal Canadiens up next.
Oh boy.
Projected cap space 0.
How is that
A
possible?
lot of draft picks though in the next couple of years for them. They've got a good stash of picks stocked up.
Yeah, they got a lot of them. How do they have 3 7th-round picks? It looks like a franchise mode.
I mean, what do we say about
they're rebuilding?
Yeah,
if we're trying to talk about what they did last year and next year, it doesn't really matter where they finished specifically. Like it was low because they're rebuilding.
Yeah, like they've still got the great pieces in place up front with Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield. Kirby Dach looked good last year. Curious how Alex Newhook does. I'm almost starting to wonder if this is maybe becoming the end for Brendan Gallagher in Montreal. I am wondering if, I know he loves it there and whatnot, but I'm almost wondering if, the two sides talk out and it's like, the Canadians are rebuilding. They're ready to move on from some guys and get younger. Gallagher probably wants to have another run at a cup. So that one's a very interesting one for me. Josh Anderson, his name's been thrown around in trade rumors.
I wonder if they
Dvorak
can even move Gallagher.
That one would be a tough sell.
He's got a modified no trade clause and then a no movement clause. I'm not sure when that kicks in here, but it's got to be pretty quick. Probably
I think it's already in effect.
Yeah, that would make sense if it kicks in the last 4 years. The no movement, and even if he agrees to go somewhere, $6.5 million for 4 years.
Yeah. Is a tough contract.
That's tough. You don't want to retain, but even if you retain the full 50% and you retain just over $3 million, 3.25, would you, if you're on,
I would.
I
would take Gallagher in a heartbeat at that amount. Because he is he's a good player, but he's also just a gritty player. He gets in those dirty areas. He gets the team riled up and going. He, in my opinion, should be the captain of the Canadiens, and it bugs me that he didn't get that opportunity.
It makes sense.
Nick Suzuki makes sense.
Because Gallagher would be a bridge captain to Suzuki or Caulfield. It makes sense that you just want to get the C on the guy when you can.
Yeah, and I mean, really the thing to say about the Canadiens is They're not going to be good next year. They're going to be bad.
Yeah.
But they are doing the whole rebuild thing right.
Yeah, there is a incredible difference between being bad on purpose and being bad not on purpose.
Yeah.
And they're bad on purpose because that's what they want to do for the next 2 years. Build up, all those draft picks we were talking about. They're going to build it up. They're going to make a couple more picks, They're going to get a couple seasons under Cole Caulfield's belt. They're going to get Juraj Slafkovsky,
Yeah, he's
Jack Guy.
coming back from injury.
They're going to get all these guys a little seasoned. Maybe Carl Alsner comes back. Oh, no, he's not injured. He's bought out. That's rough for him.
He's been bought out for time.
Yeah, they get some of these guys seasoned, and they'll be ready to go in 2 to 3.
Yeah, really the biggest thing for me is I just want to see Slafkovsky and Caulfield both have a full, at least 70-plus game season, stay healthy, really get their nose in there and find their game. If they get injured again, like their injury concerns starting to become an issue for, 2 of the big 3 there for Montreal's future. I really like how they're doing their rebuild. It's just I'm not crazy on them. I really don't have much more to say on them.
Yeah,
like it's everybody kind of knows the situation with them, and I know in a few years we're gonna have so much to talk about with the Canadiens.
Yeah, that's why it's easy for teams that are correctly rebuilding to say that we don't have much to say because we're going to be talking about them a lot in a couple of years.
Exactly.
A team like Philly, it's like, what is there to say, and is there going to be something to say in a while?
Yeah.
The way the Canadiens are looking like they're going, we're going to be talking about them a lot in 4 years.
I will say with the Canadiens, though, I am very excited for Caden Gooley next year to see what he can do. I think he played really good last year. He had I think he got an injury kind of for a little bit midway through the season. But I think he's going to be such an instrumental part of that team in the future. So really high hopes for him to bounce back strong next year and continue on the path. It wasn't same with Newhook, just, new team now. He wanted to go to Montreal. I really hope that trade pans out for them. Kirby Dach's just going to keep rising. Joel Armia, just a great locker room guy, great energy player.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the future. I really am.
Yeah. And Jake Allen's been a solid starter for them since that role's been put on him. Sam Montembeault looks good. And I've heard in the last few days, it sounds like they're already shopping Casey DeSmith around to a couple of teams.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and they've already moved out Jeff Petrie, so DeSmith will be next. Don't know where he'll go, but I think he will be moved sometime before the season.
Yeah.
Really, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. On the count of 3, where do we have the Canadiens? 3, 2, 1, 8. Yeah. 8. And that's
not
fair for them.
Not making the playoffs in 8.
Not making the playoffs in 8.
Not stretching a wild card spot down to number 8.
Yeah. Next up, the Ottawa Senators. What do we think about the Sens? What are we feeling?
They're like the first team we've looked at that has any projected cap space. It's less than $1 million, but it's some.
So the Sabres had quite a bit.
Good for them. Oh, the Sabres had a bunch. Two first round picks this upcoming year. One from Detroit, which could be interesting because we both have them outside the playoffs.
Yeah.
They got 3 fourth round picks this year. It's going to be a big 4th round for them. But as far as the current team goes, they're looking good. They've had just enough injury issues in the past couple seasons that we haven't seen their full potential. But hopefully all of them can keep it together. Hopefully Tarasenko takes to the system well. Tim Stützle only gets better every year. Brady Tkachuk is looking like a true first-line power forward. Claude Giroux's been great for them. Batherson, Matthew Joseph, even in the middle 6, bottom 6. Like, they've got a pretty decent forward core. Shane Pinto. They got some guys there.
Yeah.
I didn't even mention Josh Norris because he's all the way down on the injured reserve, like I was saying.
Yeah. The Senators are a weird team for me. Because, like, there's no doubt that, I mean, actually, no. The more I look at them, like, I think the issue for them is just, what is this defense going to do? Like, I do agree. I think the forward core is awesome. You run with but that now here's the issue, though. So do you go with Stützle, Kachuk, and, say, Tarasenko? And then you go with Giroux, Batherson, and Norris. That's a pretty good top six, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then Joseph, Kubalik, and Shane Pinto probably. And then...
That's a pretty decent third line.
Fourth line of probably Zach McEwen, Sokolov, and Mark Kastelik, former Hitman. Love him. Like, that is a good forward core. I'm actually... I don't know if I would say it's as great as Florida's. I think it's very close. I think it's just the depth.
I think the
is where Florida maybe gets the advantage.
That fourth line is tough. It is
that's an energy fourth line. That's like an Islanders fourth line.
It's only your fourth line, so
they're only playing 8 minutes a night.
Yeah, 7-8 minutes, depending on how the game goes. But
it's the defense I'm worried about with Ottawa.
Yeah.
I mean, Thomas Chabot, like, he's good. Is he worth $8 million?
I think I think he is. I think
I put him in there. I put him more around like the 7.
Yeah,
I just don't see him as like as like a true number one top defender.
No, I don't think he's that. But I think for the overall value he brings to the team, I think he's worth that.
Fucking slashing Hamonic in the face, his own teammate.
He is an absolute workhorse. In the past few years, he's always like top 5 in the league in time played. He's a really good two-way forward, maybe a bit more focused on the defense, which generally you don't see from the number one defenseman. But, you know, like you said, with the Ekblads, the Dahlins, maybe at some point he takes a similar-ish step, maybe not to that level.
I think the problem is he's already 26, so I think the time for him to make that leap is kind of gone.
But, you know, maybe you'll have a guy like Jake Sanderson make a leap up to the first line with him.
It's possible.
Somewhat soon.
Eric Brandstrom maybe finally does. I mean, it was Eric Brandstrom for Mark Stone 1-for-1.
Yeah.
And that, I hate to say it, but that trade's worked out so well for Vegas, and Ottawa just got shafted so far.
A couple more seasons like he's had, and Eric Brandstrom is really quickly going to turn into one of the guys that whenever his name's brought up, people are just going to say EA Sports franchise legend.
Yeah.
Like, his claim to fame is, I was medium elite once.
Yeah.
He made a lot of my teams.
Yeah.
But if Jake Sanderson can take that next step and be
that's the X factor for them.
If he can be the offensive defenseman they need, and they can just have Chychrun be a good two-way defenseman and just chip in here and there and play good defense in a lot of minutes, Chabot eat up minutes and be good defensively, then I think that puts him in a great spot. But that's asking a lot of a guy still on his ELC.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me. I think they're in a very similar spot to, you know, I would lean more towards the Canadiens than the Red Wings. Like, I think the Senators are going to be very good in 2 years. Maybe even next year, depending on what stride some guys take. But I think they're just asking too much out of their young guys already, especially certain guys.
I think they just got a little bit.
I think they just need to.
They got a little bit too excited about last summer. All of a sudden, it was we can spend money, and they made a lot of trades. And I think everyone just hyped it up so much that they forgot that they're still rebuilding.
Yeah.
Like they turned it around in an absolutely fantastic way, but you can't go from outside of the playoffs to cup contender in one summer. Like you need a bit of time to season these guys and just move those certain pieces around and make it all happen. You need that time for it to fully develop. Yeah. And I feel like some people are disappointed just because of the expectation they put on themselves. Realistically, I think they're on the right path. They're just, people are expecting them to be where they should be expecting them to be next year or maybe the year after.
Yeah. I completely agree.
Do you know much about their goaltender situation? I'm only seeing Jonas Korpisalo on there.
And then they've got Anton Forsberg, who's on the IR, but it sounds like he'll be back for the start of the season.
Right.
That's also a big question mark. Is Korpisalo in net? What can he do?
He's got the skill. We'll see if it shows up.
Yeah, exactly.
He's been a
right?
bit hit or miss as of late. He didn't play too many games in LA, so that's hard to judge. And then before that, he was on a bottoming out Columbus team.
Yeah.
So it'll
just be
really
interesting to
know.
see if he can put it together.
Goalies are impossible to predict, man.
Exactly, right?
It's goalie voodoo.
Yeah. All right. Where do you have the Senators finishing? I'm assuming we've got them in the same spot here. I've got them at 6.
Outside the playoffs?
Yeah.
I also have Ottawa at 6.
Yeah. I kind of figured the more we started to go through, I'm like, we're going to have our top 2 are the same. I think as everybody's is.
Especially starting with Boston and Buffalo. Once we knew where those 2 were, it was like, okay, well, unless something's really out of whack, we're probably having similar lists.
Yeah. So to go to find 2 teams, I'll let you pick because they both start with T. Who do you want to do first? Toronto or Tampa?
Screw it. Let's talk about Tampa. We'll save the big news with the new signing.
All right. Moving on to the Tampa Bay
welcome,
Lightning.
Toronto fans, for edging you on a little bit longer, I guess. Oh man, that's a lot of projected negative cap space.
Yeah.
Negative 6.9 mil. Nice.
I'll just let you get the ball rolling here. What are you feeling about Tampa Bay next year?
Fuck them kids. We don't want the draft picks, and we don't care about them. We don't need them. That's not what we're about right now. We got the talent. It's just a matter of if we can get some of the new depth pieces to fit in properly. I assume that first line, just like last year, going to be Kucherov, Point, and Hagel. That line was great last year, and if Hagel can take a bit of a step forward, it'll be phenomenal. He put up 30 goals, I think 65 points, something like that, 64 points.
Locked in
last
now
year.
For an extension, like that's huge.
Yeah, I am so glad. Kelsey and I, my wife, we're going for our honeymoon in a couple of months. About a year after our wedding, we put it off a year. And we're going down to Tampa, and we're going to go see a game. And she has been saying that she wants to get a Hagel jersey. And I've been waiting every day because I so badly did not want to get down there. And it's like, what if Stamkos got an extension and we don't have the room for Hagel? And she's like, I want this jersey. I was like, I do not want to be that guy in the store being like, should you get this? Because who wants to be doubting somebody when they're looking to get a jersey, right?
Yeah.
But now, that's going to be a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's a
as
no-brainer.
well as just having him on the team. He is so good. He's so aggressive. Really good defensively too. He set a record for the Lightning last year, most takeaways in a single season.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was, I believe, second in the league at the end of the year. He was first for a bit. I believe he got passed by Mitch Marner near the end of the year. Yeah, he's been great. Pretty quickly made it onto the first penalty kill line with Cirelli as well. I'm wondering who's going to play on that second line. Because obviously it's going to be Stamkos left wing, Cirelli center. And then from there, if Jeannot impresses, he could get there. Nick Paul could easily get on there. If Connor Sheary comes in as gangbusters, he could be there as well.
I like Connor Sheary. I'm very excited to see him on Tampa.
Maybe Barré-Boulet might even get there because he's been trying to get onto the team for years, and he is simply not the type of player who can play bottom six. He is not he is a high octane forward, and that's the only way he knows how to play. So
he ain't making the team then.
So yeah, it's either
You can't tell me that's going to be a guy playing on Stamkos's line.
I mean, he's a great point producer. He's just abysmal defensively, and he doesn't. It appears that he doesn't. I don't know if he's not willing or if he's unable to learn how to play that way.
I just don't see him making the team at that rate. Then just not under Cooper.
Yeah, the only way I could see it is him being on that second line, and maybe he just has magic with Stamkos and can score with him, and Cirelli can cover his defensive faults.
Yeah, maybe.
Other than that, he doesn't play the way that we need our third or fourth line to play. But yeah, some of these other guys, so many people crap on the Jeannot trade. I'm still a fan of it. We didn't
really get to see him last year.
Do I love how much we gave up for him? Of course not. Yeah. But I'm not sitting here being like, man, I really wish we had these picks. Like, our picks don't mean a ton to us right now. We're trying to build up a dynasty here.
Yeah.
And Cal Foote, I mean, he's already gone from Nashville.
I think
despite his, I think he got signed to a
New Jersey.
PTO by New Jersey.
Yeah.
Or he got signed to like a two-way deal.
Which his brother's there now, Nolan Foote. So they both go from Tampa to New Jersey together.
Yeah, and I'd be more than happy to see him make it work, but he's very slow. He despite his name being Foote, he needs to get his feet moving more.
100%.
It's tough. The defense, I'm interested to see
no
what
issues
happens there.
Like, their defense is rock solid, in my opinion.
Yeah, Hedman on the first line, probably with Nick Perbix again. Nick Perbix came out of absolutely nowhere, was phenomenal for us last year.
Great, he looked really
great two-way, has a bit of a knack for jumping up randomly in the offense. Mikhail Sergachev had a breakout year last year again, and him pairing with Darren Radish in the playoffs was great. Darren Radish, we just extended him like yesterday for another 2 years at $975K for those 2 years.
Yeah.
This dude was averaging like 26 minutes a night in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's a steal of a deal.
That's going to be great for us. And then, hopefully Chernak comes back from injury better than ever. He's almost always seemingly has some sort of injury. That's just kind of the game he plays. He's so good defensively. Zach Bogosian, I'm not sure where. So maybe Calvin DeHaan pushes Bogosian out. Maybe he pushes Radish out.
I think your third pairing is
probably
going to be Calvin DeHaan and Darren Radish. And then I see Hayden Fleury and Zach Bogosian being on the outside. Yeah. Unless they have a really great training camp and preseason.
Yeah. Maybe Bogo gets something under him and he really impresses there. I don't see it coming from Hayden Fleury. Whenever he has gotten to games, hasn't impressed me much. You know. But
I really like the look of Tampa Bay's team going next year, and then the goaltending, obviously no question. You've got Vasilevsky. Doesn't even matter who the backup is really behind him. Yeah,
I've heard a couple people that have had because we signed Jonas Johansson in free agency, and did he come from Colorado? Was it?
I'm not even.
I heard a couple people, kind of raising eyebrows. Apparently, I guess he's, not that great. So a little bit worried there. But I mean, if Hugo Alnefelt from the AHL can come up, one player of the week a couple times this past year with Syracuse. If he can take the next step, and all he needs to do is come up and play 15, 20, 25 good games.
Yeah, that's all it takes.
That's all we need. We also signed Austin Watson to a PTO pretty recently.
He'll be a good 12th, 13th forward somewhere in there.
Always need depth guys going into the playoffs. So
yeah,
if we can sign him on a two-way deal, I'd be just fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, I really do like the look of of their team. I think they've, the core is there, the top pieces are there. The depth is still just fine. The goaltending is not even a question. That's sound, that's solid. And there's no contracts you look at and you're like, man, this one's bad. Like, there's no contracts you can point and be like, this is a bad contract. Like, they're very well at constructing their deals. But they love their 8-year deals, which is how they can get all these players coming in at a lower cap it. And you know what? They're signing them all in the prime of their careers, so there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's we got a couple of the guys, like that clearly they're we brought in and they're trying to replace other guys. Like Luke Glendening is like the best comparable in the league to Pierre-Edouard Bellemare. So to bring him in, a very defensive-minded two-way forward who's great in the face-off dot, like they're very much the same player.
Yeah.
It's really one of those things of it's just one of those top teams that they can do it. Will they?
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Where we know both of us either have them at 1 or 2. I know where you have them, obviously. I'm assuming you have Tampa Bay at 1.
I have Tampa Bay at number 2.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. Toronto has been great in the regular season in the past 3 or 4 years now. And, I mean, they loaded up even more guys over this offseason. And Tampa Bay, more noticeably after the 2 cup runs, they as long as they're in a good playoff spot, like they're comfortably in, they let their foot off the gas mid-March. The guys are going into the corners a little less heavy. They're getting ready for the big playoff push.
Yeah.
Where we're not competing for President's trophies. We're competing for Stanley Cups at this point. And I see us being a solid 2.
Fair enough.
2 in there.
Yeah, I flip back and forth between them constantly. I was even, just while we were going through Montreal's team, I was kind of looking back over Tampa and Toronto. Like, it was so hard to decide. I ultimately did land on Tampa Bay at 2. My initial reaction was to put them at 1, but just the more I kind of just let it marinate and build up, I was like, I don't know how I couldn't go with Toronto for number 1. Playoff is a whole different thing, but regular season, exactly. I do see Toronto finishing number 1 in the division.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people don't look at Toronto as near an elite team as they are because of the lack of playoff success, but they are very consistently good in the regular season.
Yeah.
And that's why everyone makes so much fun of them for choking, because the expectation is they should make the conference finals every year.
Yeah. So moving on to the Toronto Maple Leafs, who, I mean, everybody now knows we have them ranked as number 1 going into next year.
Yep.
What do we got to say about them? Like, I don't want to sit here and jerk off the Maple Leafs too much because the media does it enough.
Missing next year's first rounder, missing the next 3 years' second rounders. So they're running a little thin there. They got a couple extra picks, 2 extra 5th rounders, an extra 7th. They got the Islanders 3rd, but not their own this year. But a big part of it is going to be goaltending.
Yeah. Well, I guess before we dive in, let's talk about the big news.
All right. Let's get into it.
Let's talk about the big news. There's a reason we saved them till the end. I mean, they're already on last alphabetically to begin with, but let's talk about it. Austin Cheeks Matthews.
AM34.
What do we think of it? 3.25 for the next 4 years, the highest paid player in the league by a decent margin now over Nathan McKinnon. Well, going into next year.
Starting next year. It is an extension, so they have him for 1 more year at 11.64 and $34 because the agent is funny. I personally think it's a pretty good deal. I think a lot of people are looking at this in a non-COVID scenario. Before, it was you sign a long extension and the money comes down because you're paying for longer, so the average comes down a bit.
Yeah.
But in this scenario, they would have to pay him more to get 8 years because the cap is going up so much, and he knows that. And that's why Austin Matthews said he wouldn't go further than a 4-year extension.
Yeah.
Because he's betting on himself being phenomenal for 5 years, and then he wants to get paid more than 13.25 on his next contract.
When he's like
30 or 31.
Yeah. So we're not going to ever, I don't think, we're never going to see an 8-year deal for Austin Matthews. Like, there's no way when he's 31 years old, he gets an 8-year deal.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening, especially in Toronto. Not happening.
But they have, for all the talk about is Austin Matthews going to leave after it's been a talk since his second year in the league.
Yeah, that's all.
The Leafs have successfully got him to stick around till he's 31.
Yeah, yeah. All those rumors and whatnot is put to bed. Matthews is sticking around. I don't hate the deal. I think it's a little rich. I think that it's just one of those things where, I mean, like we talked about the other day, it's obviously now Nylander done.
Yeah,
there's no way he's sticking around in Toronto.
No, they can't. It's
not
afford it.
Like they can't make the money work. The Austin Matthews extension now kicks in right when they can start signing Tavares and Marner to extensions. Both of those guys I see getting extended. I just don't see any room for Nylander anymore. Whether it's
what on earth do you think a new contract for John Tavares looks like?
I probably see like a 4-year.
He'll be signing the extension when he's 34, coming off 11 mil per year. Like
I see him signing like a 3 or 4 year deal at 8 mil probably.
You think they give him that long with 8 mil still? I mean, the cap will be going up, but
I think that's probably where he rounds up. Mitch Marner, he could easily get up to 13, I think. I mean, if he continues to outscore Matthews, outperform him, like goals aside, I mean, I don't know how you can't make the argument for him being up there, honestly. But
not to mention
Nylander's just the odd guy out now.
Yeah, by that point, when they're both signing their extensions, Draisaitl's going to have a new contract. He's probably going to be the highest paid player in the league
when he signs
for a year until the year after that. Then McDavid's going to get his.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see where all of those land. But yeah, I think they're going to keep Nylander for the year, and
I think they do a sign and trade at the draft next year or something. I just don't see them letting Nylander walk for nothing.
I mean, so how do you do a sign and trade if the guy says, I want to see if I can get more money though?
Well, that's the thing though, is so you talk to whatever team, say Calgary for example, and you're like, hey, you know, and they kind of talk about it with the player. Like when Tkachuk did the signing trade with Calgary to Florida, he was already in talks with Florida and agreed to the contract that was going to be given and whatnot. So, I mean, I'm just using Calgary as an example because I'd like to see Nylander in Calgary.
Yeah.
But they talked to Calgary and they're like, hey, what do you think for Nylander? We'll sign him to 8 years at $10 million. Would you be okay paying him that? And then here's the details of a trade we discussed. And then it's either yay or nay. Nylander can either say yay or nay, because he could very well just be like, no, I'm not going to sign. I'm just going to go to free agency. Like, and then he holds all the cards there because he's a UFA. So I don't fully know how that whole situation is going to go.
I think most likely he's on too good of a contract and he's too good to trade him and when then go for a playoff push.
Exactly.
They have to keep him for this next playoff run because it's wild because Toronto, you can't talk about it like the regular season. You just have to talk. It's permanently the off season until you get to the playoffs.
Yeah,
like it all depends on getting there and what you can make of it at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see it most likely they keep him to there. They do however good they do there. And you know what? If they win a cup there, maybe he's like, all right, good shit, boys. Let's do a sign and trade. But most realistically, I see him just walking after that.
I could see that, yeah. But I mean, look at him right now. Like Matthews and Tavares, your 1-2 center punch. On the right wing, you roll with Marner and Nylander, great 1-2 punch. And then the left side, Bertuzzi and Domi, another great 1-2 punch.
That's the best top six they've had in years.
And then their depth, I mean, David Camp.
Probably ever, honestly.
Yeah. But even their depth, like David Camp, Yarncroc, Ryan Reeves, Lafferty, Nyes, Gambrell, like
Matthew Nyes was great last year in the playoffs.
The depth isn't out of this world, but it's still very, very serviceable, especially through David Camp and Yarncroc and
Yarncroc was he more than held his own playing on the first line with Marner and Matthews. Like he looked like he belonged there.
Yeah.
Like certainly better than Michael Bunting was on that spot.
Yeah. And then, defense only improved, I think, in my opinion. You've still got Morgan Riley, TJ Brody, Giordano, Jake McCabe, Liljegren. They just brought in John Klingberg on a 1-year deal. I think he's going to go balls out to try and get... How tough is that for Klingberg?
Dude, it's so hard not to talk about him and not bring it up, but what was he offered? Was it 7 or 8 years at $8 million a year?
I think it was 8 by 8.
Yeah, he had an 8x8 contract, $64 million.
From Dallas, who's a
perennial playoff. And he said, no, give me a second, let me cook, and I'm going to be so good, I'm going to get more money than that. And what contract is he coming off of in Anaheim? Was it $4 million last year?
He signed a 1-year, $7 million deal.
Yeah.
He got traded at the deadline to Minnesota, and now he goes to Toronto on a 1-year, just over $4 million. And he's 31. So he's never going to get that $8 million or that 8-year offer.
Yeah, even if he somehow has an insane season and gets to $8
the most
mil,
the team would offer him is 4 years.
Yeah,
and no team will offer.
That's
him.
Even a stretch.
No team will offer him $8 million.
That's
for an aging Klingberg.
That's tough. That is generational money. Like that is
he fumbled the bag hard. I do expect him to do quite well with Toronto. Yeah. I think their defense is fine. It's their goaltending.
He'll be great on their second power play.
It's their goaltending iffy on.
Yeah.
I mean, Ilya Samsonov is obviously the starter. You've either got Martin Jones or Joseph Wool backing up.
Joseph Wool looked good in the games he got into. Looked great in the AHL last year.
I'm not sold on Samsonov as being a true, number one guy who plays 50 to 60 plus games, something like that, whatever it may be. I don't know. I think that's the area of concern for the Maple Leafs, and maybe they'll make some adjustments
almost more the
on the fly.
Defense, assuming the goalies can stay healthy. I think Samsonov was pretty good last year. It's not a massive sample size. It was the 1 year, but he did pretty good. Just bring up his numbers here.
I just don't think you can look at Ilya Samsonov and be like, that's the goalie that's gonna be the backbone of a team winning a cup.
I mean, I wouldn't have thought that about Jordan Binnington either. I mean, who just won the cup with
Binnington
Aiden Hill
just came in type of thing where Samsonov has been around for some time now. Especially the Capitals let him go. Mm-hmm. So I think he's serviceable. I think he can get the job done to get into the playoffs. I just don't see him being a backbone of the team. Going on exactly, and he's on a good Toronto team as well.
And it's hard to tell. Last year he played 42 games, 27 wins, 10 losses, 5 OT losses, a .919 save percentage. That's great. You could definitely win with a guy like that. But in the playoffs, an .898 save percentage.
Yeah.
So, that's across their 9 playoff games last year. And who knows how much is his fault? Maybe a bunch were, maybe none of it was. But what you're saying does hold some weight there. He hasn't lit it up in the playoffs before. Career in the playoffs, he's a .902 with only 17 games played.
Yeah, I think Toronto, I really do believe, as fun as it is to shit on Toronto and be all those narratives and whatnot. I do genuinely think they have a team put together that can go on a great run. It's just, again, same thing every year. It's just coming up short in the playoffs. I think a big issue is Sheldon Keefe is not a Stanley Cup winning head coach.
He is a President's Trophy winning coach. He is not a Stanley Cup winning coach.
Exactly.
It really feels like that.
Well, it's like he was just thrown onto a team with, how many coaches can be like, yeah, my first time in the NHL being a head coach, I had fucking Austin Matthews, John Tavares, Mitch Marner, and William Nylander as my 4 top forwards. Like,
yeah,
he was just thrown onto a good team. I genuinely don't see him going to any other, any other middle of the pack teams and making a huge difference. And so I think this is his last year with the Leafs. Yeah. I really do. I think he's only got 1 year left on his contract anyways. And then I see them parting ways, but
he was the biggest reason that Tampa won.
Sorry.
That Tampa Bay won game 1. Did Tampa Bay win game 1 or game 2 this past year?
I believe it was game 1.
I believe that it was game 1.
Because they shit stomped him.
Yeah, it was like, I believe the final score was 7-3, and he got outplayed harder than any player on their team did.
Yeah.
We were swapping our lines so fast, we were line matching so well, and it just felt like he was just like, we're just going to play our game, let them do whatever, and then we just ran all over him with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. He has to be able to be proactive with his changes on the lineup.
Yeah. But, I mean, at the end of the day, we do both have Toronto finishing number 1 in the Atlantic Division to wrap it up. So, I mean, we don't really need to do side-by-sides. Both of our lists consist of Toronto at 1, Tampa Bay at 2, Buffalo at 3, Florida at 4, the Bruins at 5, the Senators at 6, the Red Wings at 7, and the Montreal Canadiens coming in at number 8, last in the division.
So our only difference was that I
had Florida missing.
I have Florida in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I have them missing in that number 4 spot.
Right. So I guess that'll play into what's going to be shown off in the next episode with the Metro Division standings.
Yeah. Yeah, so just to wrap up the episode here, I think we're gonna continue on with the polls that we've been going through. I think we're doing the coaches one to wrap it up here. What are we doing? Are we doing top 10, top 15?
How many does it go through? I guess it would just be top 32. Yeah, I think that's how many coaches there are.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can. It's a lot of the bottom teams in the league at the bottom.
Yeah, which is what I figured.
So we can go through them if you want, or we could start at the top.
Yeah, just 20. Start from 32. Just start rapid firing. Like, I'm sure all of these aren't going to be outrageous.
There's quite a few that I've personally never even heard of. I haven't heard the name because.
Okay.
Are you going to talk about a rebuilding team's coach that much?
Yeah, we can just start from 32 and just work our way up to 1.
So number 32, we got Greg Cronin on Anaheim. 31, Ryan Huska on Calgary.
New guy, so can't really say much on him.
About 5% more picks than Anaheim's coach, and he hasn't even coached a game yet. So
yeah,
is that 30, Spencer Carberry in Washington.
Okay.
29, Luke Richardson in Chicago.
All right.
28, David Quinn in San Jose.
Yeah, that's fair for him.
27, Andre Turigny in Arizona.
I'd maybe have him a tad higher, but it is what it is. No, I don't hate him there.
26, DJ Smith in Ottawa.
Yep.
25, Rick Tocchet in Vancouver.
Ooh, okay. Interesting.
24, Derek Lalonde in Detroit.
Yep.
Good old Gru. 23, Lane Lambert in the Islanders.
Yeah. Can't really make the argument for much higher after last year.
22, Mike Babcock, Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yeah, that's fair. He's still going off the legacy he has and his career history, but also being like out of it for a bit, and he's on a shit team. So that's a fair spot for him. Mm-hmm. I don't hate that.
21, Rick Bowness
Babs. Yeah, Rick Bonus.
in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
20, Dean Evison in Minnesota.
Okay. I'd maybe have him a tad higher, but
19, Andrew Brunette in Nashville.
okay. I'm happy he got another chance at being a head coach.
I think I'd have him a decent bit higher.
He was the head. Small sample size, though.
I guess.
Small sample size is the big thing when I go back to him. I'm like, I like him, but it's also like small sample size.
That's fair. 18, Craig Berube in St. Louis.
Okay.
17, Sheldon Keefe in Toronto.
Too high.
17, you think is too high?
Yeah. What has he done? What has he realistically done? All he does is sit on the bench and fucking just yap and cry and scream and throw temper tantrums.
Well, yeah, but that's what
he's not.
That's what everyone does outside the top 16.
Where's his ring? Exactly. Doesn't have one.
Yeah. So Sheldon Keefe got 48.6% votes. The next guy got 50.07. So we're at the point where we're in the top half, which makes sense for number 16.
Okay.
16, Don Granato of the Buffalo Sabres.
All right.
15, John Tortorella
Torts.
in Philly.
All right.
14, Todd McClellan on the Kings.
Yeah, Toddy Mac. I'd have him a bit higher.
Oh, you like the Mac, huh?
I would have Todd McClellan higher.
13, Peter Laviolette on the Rangers.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I forgot he's with the Rangers now. They just shuffle coaches every year.
Yeah. 12, Jay Woodcroft in Edmonton.
Too high.
Yeah. I was wondering if you'd say that because...
He just, like, literally, I honestly could go coach the Oilers and do just as good as Jay Woodcroft, in my opinion. When you're fucking rolling with McDavid and Draisaitl, like... Yeah. I mean,
they're
all you really got to do is be like,
they're
go
the
out there and
offensive
do your
coordinators.
thing. Yeah, like, they run the team. Jay Woodcroft is just the face behind the bench.
Yeah. Number 11, Marty St. Louis on Montreal.
I'd almost have him a tad higher.
I'd have
him probably 9. Like, not much higher, but I still have him in top 10. I'd put him at 9.
10, Dave Haxtell in Seattle.
I actually like that. That's a good one. I'm very happy with that.
Yeah, so we just got to 50% of the votes with number 16. Number 10 there, he was at 53.9, so not much of a difference. Jumping up to 60.3, though, so a big jump. Number 9, Peter DeBoer on Dallas.
Pete DeBoer, yeah.
Classic
I will say,
Petey.
The biggest fucking problem with Pete DeBoer is his friends, his buddies, because every coach loves to just bring their buddies from team to team and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
Like their assistant coaches. His buddies suck. Awful. He really needs to get new friends.
Yeah.
I genuinely think Dallas probably could have won the cup last year if Peter DeBoer just said, hey, my friends suck. I'm going to bring in the best around me to help coach his team. Because Steve Spott cannot run a power play.
Yeah.
To save his life. So Peter DeBoer, I think, could easily be top 5 if he actually was able to just be like, separate friends from business.
Oh, yeah. We all know that one guy who he himself is pretty good, but he just surrounds himself with losers.
Yeah.
And schmucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're thinking of him right now. You know who you're thinking of. Yeah. That was to the audience.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you're probably thinking of some bums.
I genuinely wasn't. That's why I was kind of confused for a sec. I was like, who should I be thinking of? Anyways, continuing on.
We'll talk about it after. At number 8, Paul Maurice on Florida.
Yeah.
At 7, Lindy Ruff on the Devils.
Ooh, Lindy got some respect. All right.
Lindy's getting up there. After he was good enough that he got the arena to chant that they were sorry.
Yeah.
At him. When was the last time that happened?
Yeah.
Number 6, Mike Sullivan on Pittsburgh.
All right.
Number 5, Jim Montgomery on Boston.
Okay.
We're in the top 5 now. Number 4, Jared Bednar, Colorado.
Yeah. Yeah.
3, Bruce Cassidy on Vegas.
Okay. Bruce Cassidy. So I'm trying to think. Who would want? Like I know John Cooper is obviously in the top 2. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head who could be the other one. I'm just trying to think through teams and be like, ooh, that guy.
You're never going to get them.
I'm just going to go through these.
It's not that hard. I just don't believe in you.
All the teams we did them, all the way through there. Oh, fuck. Yeah, of course. Fuck. I just had to see the team. I'm like, I know. Wait, so it's I think they're going to have John Cooper as 1 and Rod the Bod as 2.
You would be correct. Number 2, Rod Brind'Amour for Carolina. Number 1, John Cooper at Tampa Bay.
I don't even hate that list fully, honestly.
No, it's...
Like, there's a couple guys I'm like, are a bit out of place, but like, overall...
But like 2 or 3 spots.
Yeah, like, it's not like
a very
nothing's
good list,
outrageously out of place. I don't mind that list.
Yeah.
I really don't. That one's better. That's the best list we've done.
Easily.
Gone through so far.
I think I might have Jim Montgomery above Jared Bednar, but like moving things one spot is nitpicking pretty good.
And I mean, how can you make the argument when like Bednar won a cup with the Avs? Like it's
right. There
one guy won a cup, the other one just put together the greatest regular season. Like it's, I would still give the nod to the cup winner. I think the guy who got it done.
And you know what? That's
Bedsy.
Perfectly fair.
Damn, we got 2 Bedsies. We got Bedard and Jared Bednar. 2 Bedsies in the league. One coach, one player. Shit, I think we've been going here for a while, so I think this kind of wraps up the end here for our Atlantic Division preview for the upcoming season. You got anything you want to add here before we pop off this one and start looking towards the Metro Division?
We got Hagel extended. Just hoping we'll get to Stamkos pretty soon, I guess. That's all I got.
That'll be the next one to look forward to. Stamkos and Nylander moves. What's going to happen there? We'll
1 for 1.
We'll find out one day. But thank you to everybody for listening and enjoying this Atlantic Division preview for the upcoming NHL season. Make sure to keep coming back to us, keep checking around, sniffing around, whatever you want to do. Because next up we will be covering the Metropolitan Division. Thank you to everybody for listening, and we will catch you in the next one.